I'm superlatively annoyed this election season by the incessant use of the argumentum ad misericordiam by Democrats for Joe Biden, where they have gone out and cherry-picked individuals with tales of misery and woe in order to point out that it's time for a change. And it's like, well, okay, yeah, the guy who's 70-something and has been in office more than I've been alive, yeah, that's definitely changed, not... but the thing that bothers me is the argumentum ad misericordiam, the appeal to pity. So it's not, sometimes it's not a direct ad for that. There's one from the SEIU talking about all the people impacted by the job losses, as if Donald Trump somehow took their jobs away, when for 4 years we've been talking about anything but that. As if Donald Trump, or Joe Biden for that matter, is someone who could have gone out and stopped the virus, which is odd because when it first came to light that the virus might have originated in China, Donald Trump did exactly that. He tried to stop it by banning travel from there. And the Democrats responded with the argumentum ad misericordiam that it was disproportionately biased towards Asians, which is weird because the Democrats don't usually defend Asians. Odd. Anyway, so there's this preconceived notion that somehow that Donald Trump has failed because he failed to stop a virus. Now, I don't know about you, but there's not really anything any politician can do to protect us from a virus. Sure, we can beef up our response, we can increase our research, we can encourage people to behave in certain ways that mitigates our risk, but it's not like you can throw up some sort of a protective barrier on the border and viruses bounce off of it. Unless, of course, you're having a peaceful protest, as the Democrats are prone to say, in which case apparently all of those rules go out the window and you can do whatever you want because the virus only attacks people if they're going to church or a Trump rally. The second argumentum ad misericordiam, which is odd to me, is the ones that are locally, that are used to buoy up Democrat candidates locally, where they unjustly ascribe actions to people who had little, if anything, to do with it. There's one in Nevada for Congressman Stephen Horsford, where he's given attribution for getting loans to keep an HVAC business afloat. Well, Horsford didn't author the bill. He didn't put it on the floor. He may have voted for it, but that's where his credit ends. Because unless you actually write and propose the legislation, you didn't do it, you just approved of it. And there's a big difference between those two. But the bigger issue here is that it implies that it's Democrats who get things done, and it totally ignores the fact that the governor of Nevada, Steve Sisolak, who is also a Democrat, is the one who told everyone to stay at home in the first place. He shut the state down. I work in higher education. We were told, like the 8th or 9th of March, 8th, 9th, 10th, somewhere that week, that we should prepare to go to online instruction we should have a plan for online instruction when we return from spring break, which was like 4 weeks away. And then we came in on Monday, and they said, have a plan by Thursday, and Wednesday they shut us down. So within a 7-day period, we went from have a plan for the future to implement the plan by this time in the future to just implement the plan and don't go anywhere. So the fact that people weren't going to work has nothing to do with Trump. In fact, Trump yelled at Steve Sisolak, as if that would make any difference, because Sisolak doesn't listen to anyone I know or anyone I like, to reopen the state. And it's weird because he doesn't seem to understand that in a state run on a gambling economy that casinos are an essential business for us. But I digress. So anyway, these businesses have been hurt, and Stephen Horsford flies to the rescue and gets them loans. Yay. And then finally, they cherry-pick these individuals who've lost their jobs and talk about their tales of woe. Now, unless I'm mistaken, they probably haven't appealed to the president for redress, and because they have a state delegation and a state legislature and families and local organizations, the president is the court of last resort to appeal to for redress of your trials and circumstances. I have to wonder, are these people who went to their governors and complained, or are they just appearing in compensated ads for Joe Biden to say, Donald Trump failed us? Well, did you involve him? If you didn't, how could he possibly have succeeded in helping you? And is he the person to whom you should have appealed for support and assistance anyway? I don't think so. The argumentum ad misericordiam, and you can read about it in the book by Douglas Walton, is very often used to manipulate people based on their emotions. It is effective because we all have this thing inside of us that reaches out and wants to help out those who are oppressed, and which reaches out for help when we are oppressed. And so they go out and find people who feel oppressed, prevail upon their sensibilities to tell their sob story, and then they broadcast it to the general public, hoping to drum up emotional support. Well, that's all well and good, but when you make decisions when you're emotional, they're usually bad decisions. Aristotle furthermore wrote that the law is reason free from passion. And until you can take passion out of things, you're not actually acting in a way that is consistent with the law. This is a nation of laws. It's a nation run by a constitution. It's a nation that's a republic. It's not a democracy, no matter what the Democrats prattle. And it bothers me that they abuse and use words and abuse and use people, because these people will be cast aside in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now, the election will be over. All the ballots will be cast. They may not be counted by then. But 2 weeks from now, none of those ads will matter, and none of those people will either. They'll follow a long conga line of people used by the Democrat Party, like Cindy Sheehan and David Hogg and that Swedish Greta chick, who, once they've served their purpose to the party, are discarded like dross and refuse in so much of last week's newspaper. But their problems and their circumstances were not ameliorated. And maybe they were enriched in some small way financially by being compensated by the Democrats, but the problem still remains. Do they ever blame the Democrats? Because that's where it firmly belongs in many cases. I'm not saying Donald Trump has no flaws. I'm saying that the blame lies squarely on the Democrats. Joe Biden was in Congress for 47 years. Joe Biden was in the White House for 8. Joe Biden has been in politics his entire career, and Kamala Harris is not a newcomer either. Joe Biden blames Donald Trump for destroying the economy, as if Donald Trump walked out in the street and released a vial of virus just to piss off people. That doesn't help him. He doesn't get rich if the economy shuts down. The last thing that a businessman wants is to trash the economy. And yet that's exactly the motive unjustly ascribed to him. Donald Trump didn't shut down your state. He didn't tell your businesses to social distance. He didn't mandate masks. In fact, that's Joe Biden who says he will. So the trashing of the economy is actually a direct consequence of Democrat Party policies. And so if you're suffering now, it's not Donald Trump's fault. And I'm not saying it's Joe Biden's, because Joe Biden wasn't in elected office. But it is not Trump's fault. And running on the notion that it's Trump's fault is deranged and dishonest. But all too often in politics, the blame and the credit are unjustly ascribed everywhere except where they actually belong. And they will take credit and they will project blame in order to make sure that you think that they are flawless. They're humans too. They make mistakes. Some of them are brazen about it. Kamala Harris is admitted to incarcerating young black men for doing something that she did when she was young. That's pretty damn hypocritical. Donald Trump may be a hypocrite, but pointing out the mote in his eye does not distract from the beam in your own, and it certainly doesn't do anything to ameliorate it. So if you're going to blame someone, put it where it belongs. It probably doesn't belong to Trump. If you think you're that big of a deal that he is purposely getting up every day to destroy your life, you are either a megalomaniac or you are a villain. Because I don't think he knows these people, and I certainly don't think that he was calculating it to hurt people, especially not you. I think in this world, especially now, in our time of political tumult, one of the greatest things you can do is grow a thick skin. It's something I'm working on. Sometimes I have good days, and sometimes I have less than good days. Sometimes I'm wise, and sometimes I'm otherwise. But I think if you don't have a thick skin, you're going to be ground up by the road when you lay yourself down. Make sure that credit goes where credit belongs. As an academician, I hate plagiarism. As an academic, I hate logical fallacies. As a Christian, I hate hypocrisy. As a thinking person, I hate being told what to do and what to think. Don't let them tell you what to do and what to think. Don't let me do it either. If you like what you hear from me, that's great. If you don't, then just thank God that He has taught you to be wiser than I. Ultimately, you're accountable for your actions anyway, and I'm not. And you're not accountable for mine, and some of you may be very grateful for that one day. Who knows? Whatever you do, don't let emotion cloud your judgment. When I have let emotion cloud my judgment, it has led to some of the worst decisions of my life. And that is exactly what is happening in this political climate right now, as we are being emotionally abused by people who don't care about us, but they care about using us and then discarding us when we no longer have any utility. We are human resources, resources to be used to elevate and aggrandize their vain ambitions. And then when we have no more utility, they'll go find others who do. And that's the fact of the matter. I don't care what side of the political spectrum you're on. Most politicians don't give a flying pinwheel about the people they were elected to represent. Mostly, they are their own favorite constituent, benefactor, and beneficiary. And that's the honest truth. If you're suffering under this climate, I feel for you. I know what suffering is like. Fortunately for me, this has been less of an arduous experience than it has been for many others that I know. And I am grateful for that blessing. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, Godspeed and good luck. Oh, be wise. What can I say more?